In Fusion 360, a sketch is considered fully defined when all of the sketch elements have been provided a size and a location relative to another element in the sketch. When I built this sketch, I made these circles from the center circle tool, and that created a midpoint constraint, so that circle has been defined position-wise in accordance to the middle of my sketch. They also have a size, and with a size and a position, they are considered fully defined, which is why their lines appear black. Other elements that have not been fully defined will appear as blue. These blue lines need more information in order to fully manufacture and develop this particular product. To do that, we have to go through and ensure that all of them have their proper constraints and that they have been provided a position and a size. In this case, I have this square on top. Without this dimension, these lines can come out as blue. If we want to fully define this part of our sketch, we need to provide them with a few different things. First, we're going to use our dimension tool, and we're going to provide it with a width. In this case, 3. And we are still not fully defined because we have not provided a height or a location for that particular line. Let's continue. I'm going to use my dimension tool again. This time I'm going to define the height of this line, which is 1. And now the top line has been turned black because it has to be 1 centimeter from this other line, and it has to be 3 centimeters long. Now we want to define this line. Of course, we have already given it a height, but it does not have a position. To do that, we are going to give it a position relative to another fully defined line. In this case, the side of our camera. I'm going to use my dimension tool, select this line, select the other line I'd like to use as a dimension, and then click here. Provide 2 centimeters. We now know that this line has to be 2 centimeters to the right of the side of the camera. And since it has a height of 1, this line is now fully defined and it comes out as black. We're going to repeat that with all of the elements within our sketch. This one is a little bit trickier because we have to define the angle of this particular line. We're going to make this 65. To define an angle, use the dimension tool, click on a non-horizontal or vertical line, and then compare that to a horizontal or vertical line or any other line that will work as an angle, and select to click. I want this to be the same as this angle, so I'm going to use this as a reference. Now you can see they are still blue. That's because we haven't provided a position for that. To do this, we're going to use our dimension tool again. And we're going to select the bottom point. And then we're going to go to the side of our camera sketch, click upwards, click the side, and tell that that point has to be 7 centimeters from the edge. Now that it has a degree and a position, it turns black. You're going to continue to do this with all elements inside of the sketch that are blue. Once you have them all clean, they should come out as all black. Now, this doesn't mean you should go put dimensions on everything. Some things are going to have the same measurement, and that's where you're going to use your constraints. The equals constraint is very powerful in this case, and we want to continue to use that to define things so we don't have just a big mess of measurements all over. Also with your measurements, try to keep them clean by keeping all the same horizontal measurements on the same line or above so that it becomes easier to read. That is how you fully define your sketch.